Hey guys, J77 doing another What's News update. This is where I collect all the news that happened throughout the world during the week. In this case, it's going to be 2 weeks due to the fact that I have just got over a major bug. With that being said, I might as well just let you guys know right now. If I tend to pause doing this video, I do apologize. Like I said, I'm just getting over a nasty bug, which caused me to have muscle spasms, which I'm just getting over, and but it's still really painful to talk, and talk at accelerating rate. So I'm gonna talk a little slower, and hopefully I can go smoothly without me having to pause, catch my breath a bit. But I'm cool now, so let's get this thing started, shall we? The first news I'm going to stick with the local news first and then work my way with the other news as they go along, because the local news, one of the news that happened this week, caught my attention, and that was involving a Williamsburg situation near my area. I mean, this was right here close to home, and it involves a homeless guy, which, by the way, had met. He is arrested and charged pretty much with attempted assault and harassment at a Bedford Avenue station. Now, why is he not charged with murder? Because a person did die. It pretty much explained on the Daily News, and I will give you guys a link to this news because it's very, very tragic. Apparently, there was a fight that broke out. According to this report, Burnkamp, who appeared to be drunk, was basically, harassing the strap hanger, which goes by the name of Joshua Bison, who was 20 years old and was attending college. And what happened was he was drunk and he basically harassed and basically continued to bother this kid. Unfortunately, the kid didn't ignore it. He didn't let it go. And that led to a scuffle between the two. Both of them fell onto the tracks, and needless to say, they fell into an oncoming Manhattan train. Now, Brewing Camp got out of the train, got out of the tracks in time. Unfortunately, Basin did not. It ended up killing him, and which led to a massive hunt. There were pictures all over my area as well as in the news, and eventually they actually caught him, which it didn't took them too long. Once this picture was out there, it was just a matter of time when they were going to catch him. Excuse me, sorry. Let me just fix this here. Like I said, a lot of people are angered that he wasn't charged with murder. The only reason why I can say that he's not going to get the murder charges is because, according to this report, Basin had a chance to just leave it be. He had a chance to let it go, get on his train, but he pursued him, and that was the point where things gotten worse. Half he just let it go, or just basically asked for transit assistance, and if he would have kept on doing what he was doing, then maybe that whole thing, the death, would not happen. I'm not trying to accuse the victim here, don't get that wrong. I'm just trying to explain why, the only reason why the police can't charge him with murder, because, like I said, he is, once that first scuffle has happened, once that first confrontation has happened, he left, and the person who he was harassing actually gave suit, and that's where the thing has happened. Let me read a brief summary so you have a better idea what I'm talking about. When the train stopped at the station, Burnkamp poked the LaGuardia Community College student in the shoulder as he exited the train, according to law enforcement sources. But Bison stepped off the train and went after. Basin went off the train and went after Burnkamp. See, that's the key thing. He went off the train and went after him. He didn't go his merry way. So he continued, because according to this report, he actually left. Person who was homeless and attended boarding school with one of the Donald Trump. I don't know why they decided to bring this up. I don't understand, but they bring it up. Donald Trump's sons, It led eventually to the platform, but Burnham tried to run away. He tried to leave the scene, which in his case I can understand. The law enforcement someone said there was a point where when it was over and Benson followed him. So basically what happened was when he ran off the scene, it should have ended there, but the victim had followed him, basically continuing to engage in the fight. And that pretty much led to both of them getting into a altercation, both of them falling into the tracks, and both of them pretty much, one came out of the tracks, but one didn't. This is a very sad story. It's a very, very sad story. This is going to throw a bad light on a lot of issues, especially a lot of people who already has their mixed feeling on people who are homeless. It's definitely something you don't want to hear. But this is unfortunately a sad event, and sadly, this is not the first time this happened in New York. What's so ironic about this is I actually bumped into this guy. I actually met him. A lot of people who I know around the Williamsburg area know who this person is. He was supposed to be getting services, but apparently, obviously, he didn't, take advantage of the help that was offered to him. But as a result, his drinkingness and his way of not thinking straight led to a death of a very young person, which is very, very sad. Now, according to the reports, they said the funeral, I have to say, will be held next week. Because this is this week. This just recently happened at Howard Beach. They held a wake. So I think, oh no, they actually have done the funeral service. So yeah, this is very, very sad. Very, 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 very sad. I'm gonna leave a link to it. You guys can read the paper, read the article in its entirety, and you guys can judge for yourself. But like I said, a lot of people want murder charges. Unfortunately, they can't give murder charges to him due to the fact that when they had the first altercation, he left. He ran away, and Joshua Benson actually pursued him. Had he not pursued him, he will definitely be alive, and that would never happen. And it's unfortunate because Brewing Camp 33 had definitely started the chains of events that led to a young man's death, and that's something that I can't stand to see happen here. Again, I will leave the link. This is something that happened, and again, like I said, I bumped into this guy. I talked to him at least briefly, and a lot of people who talked to him from my area is stunned that this actually happened. But there's a lot of anger right now between this guy. They felt that more charges should be joined. But again, I also understand what the police officers are saying about this case, about why they're not charged with murder charges, especially when he actually tried to avoid any further altercation. But still, you don't know what other charges may be brought in. Is it still fresh? They may actually add something that may have a stiffer penalty. Only time will tell. This is still a fresh case, and if there is something else more happening with this case, I will definitely bring it up and talk about it. What else? Yes, another local news. Mayor Bloomberg have said something that's very interesting. This has been talked about for the last couple of days. I thought I'd share it. It's not really major, especially if you're not living in New York. But Bloomberg said that Gracie Mansion shouldn't serve as a resident for New York City's mayor. Don't know why he decided all of a sudden to comment on this. It's not like that's a permanent arrangement. It only goes by how many years you serve. It's like a 4-year term, 8 years if you serve again. But he basically talked about this before. This is a very, very interesting article. Again, this is given by the Daily News. Tanya Moore is the person who wrote it. Basically, it's not a big thick thing. It says here that It says that Bloomberg felt that they should have their own pad, and that's it. Somebody said, "Oh, it seemed the same. The same at the White House. Bloomberg opened. The White House has been a White House since the day one. Nobody has his house for the mayor." Okay, whatever. He said the mansion is originally used for bathroom and concession stands at the Carl Schulz Park. There is no other big city that provides housing for its mayor, he said. I don't think you have to give the mayor a housing allowance. He said, it does seem like there's a lot of people that want the job. The entire mansion would be private if the family lives there, and rightly so, he said, because you can't expect people trespassing through your bathroom all the time and you're still in bed in the morning. I think it's just wrong, he said. Every mayoral candidate, as far as I know, has been in an apartment someplace or a house. Well, that's very interesting that he brought it up. I don't know if the people if the mayor actually lived in Gracie Mansion. I think Giuliani had done it a couple of times. I know Giuliani has have lived there on a few occasions. But I don't know any other mayor other probably than Bloomberg himself, or in this case Bloomberg haven't. But I think he did in many occasions. I know he did parties with Jay-Z at one point. He had gatherings. But as far as living there like the president do in the White House, that's a good question. I really never really thought into that. But even if the mayor was to live there, look, it's only for the term that the mayor is supposed to be in. It's not like it's like a permanent housing thing. As for the housing allowance, well, that depends. Is that the housing allowance and the salary he's getting, or is that the housing allowance is just the salary? As you guys should know, Bloomberg don't take a salary. He does not have a salary as a mayor. He didn't want it. He refused it. And basically, he doesn't need it. He's a multi-billionaire. This is a guy who used his own money without any help from anyone to run his campaign. And that is why he's probably the most powerful and most feared mayor we have gotten. And I say feared because a lot of Republicans, as well as Democrats, know just how much power this guy has, and he's not afraid to flaunt it. He has multimedia groups. He's invested in a lot of stuff. This guy is a 100% businessman with a tremendous amount of power, and that kind of power have gotten him in the office. And that power have implemented rules that even I agree at sometimes, and I do not agree at sometimes. It's pretty much a slippery slope with him. And all, what he says is, I don't think he's wrong about the salary thing. It all depends. I mean, is the allowance the salary? If it is, then I'm not going to go crazy about it because that's his payment. But if he's getting that and the salary, yeah, I can see what he means about it. But again, it's his say. Who knows who's going to be mayor after him? This is his last year, of course, unless he fixed the election again like he did a few years ago. But this is his last year. I think he's just talking just to, give the word of advice for other future mayors, Democrat or Republican, who's going to come in here and run, that they should get their own pad and not rely on the services of Gracie Mansion. But it's something that got me kind of curious a little bit. Even though I don't think it's a major story, it does got me wondering about how a mayor lives, especially in other states, in other cities, how they go about doing their thing. All right, let's get back to more serious news. I'm gonna stick one more for my. I'm gonna go with one more news. I was actually wanted to talk about this news for some time now. I meant to talk about it as a separate news, but never really got around it. It's involving a woman who was stalking Yankees general manager Brian Cashman. Not away, Fatal Attraction, Missouri is nothing new with ex-husband and former flame. This is interesting news I don't know what the hell that means. But this is an interesting news because this was on my front page for quite some time. I believe it cost the marriage of Brian Cashman as a whole, but I don't think that that was the least of the problems. I think it's more of the blackmail that came in. I'm gonna read a little bit on this so you guys understand where I'm coming from. Do apologize if I'm blurring, but like I said, I'm just trying to catch my breath here. Let me just read here. This is once again Daily News. It was blown by Melissa Grace and Jonah Foster, and I will leave a link as usual so you guys can read yourself. A single mom accused of shaking down Yankee general manager Brian Cashman was shocked with the 52 counts of indictments. Wow. From charges she harassed the baseball bigwig and 5 other men. Court records unsealed Friday. Okay. The 36-year-old threatened to go public with her affair with the Bombers executive if he didn't cough up $6,000. That's it? No surprise there. Prosecutors charged. She allegedly told Cashman that she was pregnant with his child and tried to get him to cough up another $15,000 for medical procedures. Prosecutor claims she took at least $50,000 or more from one of her victims, who sources said was not Cashman. Regardless, the alleged theft, the top charges of the indictments carried up to 15 years in prison. Hope it was worth it, because blackmail is not. Yeah, that was mass media attention. A lot of people were stunned to hear this coming from Brian Cashman. He was involved in something like this. This was front page. CNN have talked about it for a while. ESPN have talked about it for a while. Of course, after a while, things started to died out a little bit. You didn't hear it as much as you were, to the point where, as the off season continued, the free agency and especially spring training, it basically disappeared. And now this week we just finally got some news about this. Like I said again, I think this cost Brian Cashman his marriage. I think that he is separated from his wife because I think the allegations that has happened were true in some cases, but other than that, there's really no new information about his marital status, and I really don't care about his marital status. As far as the woman's concerned, yeah, she's going to be facing a lot of charges. So I hope she has a good lawyer ready, because that's going to be a hard case to get out of, especially when if you're dealing with blackmail. New York City does not tolerate blackmail in any shape, form, or fashion, and you basically blackmail the top executive from the New York Yankees, as well as God knows how many others. I didn't even know about the others. That was the funny part. Didn't know that it was actually other victims. I just assumed that it was just Brian Cashman, because Brian Cashman's name was planted on the front and back page of most papers. I think the only paper that really didn't dive too much into it, I think it was the New York Times, Newsday, which basically is mostly Long Island, so I'm not saying I'm surprised by that. I know the Post did, and I know the Daily News did. They're like 2 major sports papers, so you expected them. But other than that, most of the news did cover it. Most of the sports news, especially WFAN, did cover it. So it was a big thing, and then it just died. You didn't hear nothing else after that. So now we finally got some updates, and now we know exactly that there were actually other victims besides Brian Cashman. For all I'm concerned, blackmail is blackmail. She should never have done it. She should pay the price for that. We don't need that. I think that was, to me, was a. She tried to use it as a stranglehold. And for far as Brian Cashman is concerned, I don't really much feel too sorry for him either. Make no mistake about it. He has done a good job with the Yankees. there are some things that I definitely like what he done. There are some things that I also question, but that's just me being a Yankee fan. But he got to know what he's putting himself into. And as far as I'm concerned, as far as his family life, I'm just gonna leave it between him and his wife to handle that. And that's all I got to pretty much say about that. But as far as I'm concerned, he should know what he's dealing with. He should also know the consequences for dealing with people, especially his stature. He got to know that there are going to be people who's going to try and get as much money out of you as they can, and you can't put yourself in that kind of situation, regardless of what you may think that person's intentions may be. You got to always think about the consequences of your own actions. Just ask Tiger Woods. But that's pretty much all I got to say about that matter. I'm going to switch gears, go a little bit nationally now. I'm going to talk about this because this one, no, you know what? I'm going to leave that for later. I'm going to leave that for politics. I got two politics stories I want to talk about, but I'm going to leave that for later. I'm going to talk about this one from Indiana. This one I actually had on my radar for a while. This is actually an interesting story of a school student. This was given to me by a friend of mine, and I do apologize for bringing this out late, my friend, but I was not feeling well, and even if I was to make a video, it would probably be just me trying to gasp for air. So I do apologize for not coming out. But this happened about a week ago. I have to do a follow-up video on this case, but the reason why I decided to talk about this is for two reasons. One, a lot of students are getting suspended and expelled for what they say on Facebook and Twitter. And two, they're being expelled for having something on Facebook and Twitter that's not related to school, or it's not even on school grounds. And this is one of the cases here. An Indiana high school senior has been expelled for tweeting for a tweet he says he posted from home on his personal account. One of the tweets was F is for the effing word, and you can F put everywhere in the effing sentence, and it still effing makes sense. Garrick High School senior Austin Carroll told Indiana News Center. The expulsion came when Carroll is on the home stretch towards graduation, and Carroll's mother Pam said he didn't agree with her son's tweet, but doesn't agree with the expulsion either. I don't agree with the expulsion either, and I'm kind of curious on what's their real reason expelling him. To her suspicion, lasting several days or more appropriate. A suspension lasting 7 days or more. Yeah, I'm gonna save my comments for last on this. So I'm just gonna keep reading on this a little bit. Carol says she didn't think he should be punished by the school for what he posed on his own time and his own computer. The student finished high school at an alternative school and will be able to graduate. I thought this was pretty funny. The school didn't think so. They thought it was inappropriate. Okay, fine. It is inappropriate. I'm not going to sit here and say it's not. But I'm also, at the same time, not going to say it's none of your business. If it's not going to affect the school in any way, if he said something about the school or made threatening comments to one of the students, like the two students that posed racist slurs about their own students in their own school, then yeah, you have a reason to be concerned. You have the reason to protect the other student, especially when the other students have vengeful thoughts in mind. But this, if this is true and all he was saying was the F word, and it has nothing geared towards any students, and has nothing geared toward the school in general, in his own time, in his own home, in his own room, then I don't think the school should get involved. And that leads to another thing. How did they know he did this? Who told the school that? And this is all. And I'm gonna talk a little bit more about this because I think people are still not getting about not having really much of a freedom when it comes to social sites. But I'm just gonna stick with this topic. Carol told Indiana News Center, I think I think it's inappropriate too, but I just did it to be funny. I just wanted to be able to go back to regular school, go to the prom, and go to every day that a regular senior would get to do in their senior year. Carroll expansion follows another incident in Indiana school in which two students faced similar disciplinary actions in January for creating a fake tweet account impersonating the principal. Now that here, that's different. You're impersonating an authority figure. A principal is an authority figure, and you do not do that. And it's always amazing how one knucklehead ruins it for everybody else. But you can't really compare fake tweeting impersonating their principal to him just having fun and making inappropriate comments about just anything. Like I said, if it was something that's going to affect the school as well as cause a dangerous threat towards the students, or something that's going to lead to a dangerous threat towards the students or the staff or the school as a whole, then yeah, I can see you guys making that move. But if it's just something he's doing just for fun and just tweeting others, then that's a whole different scenario. You gotta separate the two. You can't put everything in the same category. And I think that's what the schools are doing. They're trying to put everything in the same category. And sooner or later, that's going to hurt they're going to hurt the schools, because a lot of schools are facing. I know New York is facing something similar, and also the ASAP is getting on them as well as this matter. There's a big issue with tweets, Facebook, a lot of issues, but I'll touch on that a little bit later. Let me just go back and say it. Carroll expansions follows another incident at the Indiana school in which two students faced similar disciplinary actions in January for creating a fake tweet account impersonating their principal. The tweet from the school account, a tweet from their account, the Indianapolis Star reported, were sexual and racially charged. That is a different story. That is threatening the school. That is also slandering, where you're ruining a reputation of a person in the school, in this case the principal. That's a totally different situation to what somebody just saying the F word in their own account. And that's where I think they're trying to put everything in one vote. The school system across the country have implemented or considering policing that open dialogue on what the school role in the social media and what action should or shouldn't be taken against what students and teachers post online outside the classroom, which I believe they're playing a very dangerous game, and I believe they need to be very careful how they play that game, which, in my opinion, could have dire consequences. It's going to have you got to know exactly what you're looking for, and you got to also know that you may be also invading the privacy of the students, whether you like it or not. So it really does throw a big curveball towards freedom of speech, especially when it comes to the superhighway. A bill that will be allow schools to punish students for off-campus activities had advanced in the Indiana legislature, permitting schools to suspend or expel students for engaging in activities away from school and after hours that may reasonably be considered to be an interference with school purposes or an educational function. The question is, as I speak to you guys now, is what they got to bring a more stronger language. You just can't make it vague, because if you make it vague, in my opinion, it's going to run rampant, and you're going to have a lot of lawsuits, and you're going to have a lot of problems enforcing this law. Okay, West Virginia recently adopted an anti-bullying policy that will punish students with detention or suspension for vague and offensive speeches online if it disrupts schools. In the U.S. Supreme Court last month let let stand ruling that said schools could not discipline two Pennsylvania students for MySpace parodies for their principles that the students created at home. The Kansas City High School seniors made the news when she tweeted disparaging remarks about the Kansas City Governor Sam Bolback. Posting to her account just made mean comments at Governor Burns and told him he sucks in person. Emma Civilian was called into the principal's office and asked to write the governor a formal apology. Civilian refused, and Burber later issued an apology for his staff overreacting on the tweet. I remember this case. Yes, I do remember this case. This was a case that really brought me attention. The kid basically was ranting, and the mayor didn't like it. He called the school and tried to force the principal to basically tell that student they need to write an apology. You need to do it now. But apparently that backfired, and ended up that mayor ended up having to apologize to his staff for overreacting. It was kind of weird. It was kind of weird, and I can understand why this is why. But you understand why this is a very, very, very tough, slippery slope to follow, because again, you gotta know when to say, okay, this is just stupid, to, okay, this is life-threatening. This guy's now posting a situation where it's life-threatening. And again, this is a perfect example of that. I remember this case very, very well. Disciplinary actions for disagreeing online posts are not unique for students. A Florida high school teacher of the year was suspended last August for an anti-gay post he wrote on his Facebook page. On the West Coast, a new policy in Los Angeles Unified School District states that teachers can be disciplined for posting inappropriate, threatening, harassment, racist, bias, derogatory, and or bullying comments towards or about any students, employees, or associated persons on any website. This actually has gotten stronger. This is actually a more stronger, more broad, more straight up in ink legislation, because it basically says straight up to every teacher, if you get caught, talking down to your students, bullying your students, making racial or anti-Semitic remarks, you're gone. It has happened numerous of times on teachers' Facebooks, and as well as Twitter. Yeah, that was a very big big issue over the years. I actually did a blog on that because how big that was. Well, let me do you guys understand why I make it my business to let people know, especially my blogs, why it's very important to understand that if you think you have really freedom of speech and you think you have privacy in the World Wide Web, you really don't, especially when it comes to certain jobs in this country. A lot of places are very sensitive to it. A lot of people are policing it. Whether I agree with it or not, that's what it is. And how we all need to be careful what we post on our site, because we don't know who's looking at this. We don't know who's reading it, and people have very short nerve tension spans that they will take actions on you, even though your blog or your videos are pretty much harmless. These are the reasons why. This one article, which I didn't mean to take this long on it, by the way, basically proves that. I think it proves it more than anything else I have ever written about the social media as a whole. And for this kid, I will say that the school overreacted. I will say the school has jumped the gun, and there was really no reason for them to expel them. You want to, you want to talk to them and say, yo, this is a little inappropriate. Fine. I don't even think expending him is even appropriate because, like I said, from what I read and what I have been following up on, he just used the F word on his own account. He didn't use the F word on the teacher. He didn't use the F word on the student. He didn't use the F word on basically anyone in the school. It was in his own time, in his hours, doing, just basically just bugging out. Now, if it was in school ground, it's a little bit different story because I know New York has a very strict code that if you're in a computer room and you get caught logging into Facebook, you're suspended. That's not even a question because you're using something on school time, not on your own. But other than that, I know for a fact that school officials look at students' Facebooks and Twitter, even without them knowing they do. Don't ask me how they get the account. Don't ask me how they manage to fork out the information, but they do it, and they do it regularly. So, and there's been a major issue with that because there are now lawsuits that's being pended. Legislation, major legislation, is being pended because they want to know what workers and teachers can and cannot do in terms of social media. Because social media, people log into social media all the time. They say a lot of stuff. So the question is, why do they want people's passwords? Why do they want people's Facebook accounts? Well, they want to know who they're dealing with. That's the major thing. Do I agree with it? No. But that's the situation we're dealing with. And now it finally took lawmakers to realize that, hey, people are complaining about this. People are saying that this is wrong. You need to make something that stopped them. Facebook took the first step. Of course, I'm not surprised. And they told their managers, under those circumstances, you ask for anyone's Facebook account at any cost, and they made it be known that disciplinary action would happen if they ever find out that went down. And this made major news for a couple of days. A lot of people were talking about this big time for at least the last few days, and rightfully so, because a lot of people are getting a little angry, especially in today's job market, that they feel they have no choice but to give their account. I don't have a Facebook account, so I'm not worried about it. So I'm not planning to get one anytime soon because I'm not looking for a major following. So it's just be a waste of my time. But other people have it to connect with friends and to run their business more better and to share things with loved ones. So I have no problem. My sister has it, no big deal. But to me, I can live without it. So, but in any case, that's been a major issue, and many people are now beginning to realize just how serious this issue is. Again, I don't think the kids should have been suspended. I don't even think the school should have wasted their time on this. This is their overreacting. But from other stuff that's happened over the past couple of years, it's not that hard to see why they overreacted. Again, students slandering a principal's name, people committing suicide, people making racial threatening comments, people just making racial comments against their own peers, and expecting that's gonna spread out. I can see why they are trying to make sure that their schools are safe and to make sure that no one is using it to bash students, to put down and bully other students, or to use that kind of system as a way of basically tormenting or abusing the system that they feel that they work so hard to implement. However, I will say this, and I will say this with respect. The school needs to be careful, and the school needs to know what they can and cannot do, because just because a person tweets something that's inappropriate outside the school ground doesn't merit them to punish them. Keep in mind they still have freedom of speech, and even though I don't agree with their opinions and stuff, that's their opinion. I think you gotta know when to cut that line. And let's be honest, most people who sees these type of tweets and Facebook messages, they know that they're a bunch of idiots, and they're just probably leave them alone. It's not something to go crazy. If it's something that is could deem a threat, like bullying, threatening a student, harassing a student, harassing a teacher, harassing any staff members, then yeah, I can see them taking a move. But again, they have to set a more broader, clear picture of what they can and cannot do. But I'm gonna leave that up to you guys to talk about, especially with this conversation. All right, I'm breaking this up now because I just realized that it's past the 40-minute mark. I'm going to come back with part 2. I'm not going to, because like I said, I have a lot of reports to talk about. I got 5 more, and I want to get all 5 of them out the way. So this is part 1. I will be back with part 2, but until then, you guys, take care.